So we've seen how to work with Azure Machine Learning Studio and how to navigate the different workspaces that you have. And we saw how to copy experiments from one workspace to another. But what if I want to create a brand new experiment and start looking at some data? How do I do that? Well, let's take a look. So in Azure Machine Learning Studio, I can see the different experiments I have, and I can also see the different data sets that I have to work with. I currently don't have any of my own data sets. There are some samples that I could use, but what I really want to do is to upload some of my own data in order to explore it in an experiment. So I'm usually going to start by uploading my data sets. And to do that, we'll just click New. We're going to create a data set, and we're going to upload that from a local file. So I'll go and browse and find the file that I want to upload, and I want to upload this exercise file here. And I'm going to upload that. It asks for a name for that. I'll just take the file name, exercise.csv. It doesn't have to be the same file name. I could give it a different name if I want. And I can specify what type of data it is. Now, I happen to know that this is a comma-separated values file, and the first row contains the header. So I've got that selected by default, but I could choose various different options for different file types that I might want to upload. And I can provide some sort of additional description. So I'll just go and add that description in there. And if I go ahead and click OK, it's going to start uploading that data to my workspace. And that's going to get stored in the storage account that's associated with my workspace. When the data is uploaded, I get a little confirmation message here. I'll just click OK on that. And I can see that that data set now is in my workspace. So I'm ready to go and create an experiment. So we'll go in, on my Experiments tab, and we will go and click a new experiment. And there are various different templates that I can use. I'm just going to use this blank experiment template here. And that creates a new experiment with the name experiment created on and then whatever the date is. So I'm just going to change the name of that to exercise analysis. And actually got an extra S in there. There we go. So I've got my, my experiment, and it actually tells me what I need to do. I've got this area here that we call the canvas, and I can drag and drop data sets and modules onto that canvas to work with it. So over here on the left-hand side in this pane here, I've got various different categories of things. I could browse through my saved data sets and look in my data sets, and there's that exercise CSV data set that I uploaded. So I could go and add that, drag that across onto the canvas, and then I'm ready to start working with it in this canvas. Now you'll see that the thing I've dragged across, this is a data set. It has a little number 1 here, and that's what we call an output. So if I click the output, if I just right click that, I get various options, and I usually get the option to visualize. So I could go ahead and click visualize, and it shows me a summary of what's in that. So it tells me that there's 15,000 rows with 8 columns. I can see the first couple of 100 rows here, and I can navigate along, and I can see different information about the different columns that are in there. So I could see things like the age column, and I get some information. If I click that column header, I get some statistics about that column, and I'm able to see a histogram of how the values are distributed through that column. So I'm able to get some useful information just by visualizing the data set in here. Now, what I might want to do is I might want to build up an experiment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a different data set. I could have multiple data sets in the same experiment. So I'm going to upload another data set. I'll do that without leaving the experiment. So if I click the plus button, because I was currently looking at experiments, it assumes I'm going to create a new experiment, but I'm not. I'm going to upload a data set. So we'll go and browse through another local file, and this time I'll upload the calories file, and that one's called calories.csv, and just give that a description and upload it. And again, that's going to get uploaded. And when the upload is complete, I can click OK, and that's now listed among my data sets as well. So I've now got 2 data sets there. We'll just drag this guy out. So I've got both of those data sets in my workspace, my experiment. If I go and visualize that calories, I can see there's a user ID and a number of calories, and that user ID is the same type of value that's in my exercises file. You can see the user ID there. So you can probably guess what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and join these 2 things together. Now to do that, I'm just going to search for the module that I require. I'll search for join, and there's a join data module. So we'll drag that guy out, And what I can do is, you can see I get a little warning here that this needs a value to tell me what I'm going to join. And so I'm going to drag from my output from the exercise data set to an input in the join data. And I'll do the same from calories across here. So I can see the names of these. That's data set 1 and data set 2. So this expects 2 data sets to be entered into it. And then once I've selected those data sets that I want to have the data flow down into this join data, I've got to make some configuration changes to this. And what I've got to do is tell it how do I want to join the data. And to do that, I need to choose a column for each of the left and right tables that I want to join on. What's the column that they have in common? So we'll choose our column selector. And you can see here I've got a list of all of the available columns, so I can choose user ID, copy that across. And then for the right-hand column, again, I can just click Launch Column Selector. Again, I could just select it from the list of names, but sometimes it's useful to be able to use a rule to select a column. So I could actually go and specify the With Rules tab here, and I could either start with all of the columns and then exclude some of them, or I could start with no columns and then include some of them. And I can include them based on their names or their indices or the type of column, or I could choose all of the columns, all of the feature columns that are in there. In this case, I'm going to base it on column names, and I know that the username is user ID, the column name is user ID, so we'll just click that. And I could add multiple columns in here, but that's all I'm going to do. And we'll click the little tick button here to select that column. Now, there's a few other options in the properties pane here. We'll just minimize that bit of information at the bottom to give us a bit more room. It says match case. Well, in this case, they're numbers, so there isn't any case, so that doesn't really matter. I can specify the join type. Now, an inner join will throw away any rows for calories that don't have matching exercises, and it will throw away any exercises that don't have any matching calories. It just takes the ones that exist in both tables. I might want to choose something like a left outer join, where I'm saying, hey, keep all the exercises even if there are no calories associated with them. Just put a null value in there for that. And I can also choose to keep the right key column. In other words, when it joins these, we're going to have 2 user ID columns, one that comes from this table and one that comes from that table. I don't actually need them both, so I might just say, hey, don't keep the right-hand one, we'll just keep the one on the left. And that's now ready to go. Now, at the moment, if I try and visualize those results, it's grayed out. I can't actually see anything. What I have to do is I have to run the experiment. So a good practice is just save the experiment every now and then just to avoid losing any changes. And then I can go and run the experiment. So if I go ahead and click run, what's going to happen is Machine Learning Studio is going to go off and run that. It first of all queues the job, and then I get the status up here that it's running. And when it's finished running, I get a little green tick next to each of the modules that I've run, and I should now be able to go and visualize the output from that run. So I can see there's my information from my exercises, and the calories are now on the end here as well. So I can see that I've got my calories shown there as a histogram, as well as all the information about the exercise. So that was how I was able to work with my Azure Machine Learning Studio to create an experiment, to add some modules to that. There are a whole bunch of different modules here that you can add. Some of them do very specific things like join data or filter columns or whatever it is we want to do. Some of them enable me to write my own custom code in languages like R or Python or even SQL to work with the data. And I can build up a data flow within my experiment that lets me go and manipulate the data and start to explore the results that I get.